All right, we are back 1 week later. Check that out. We are on a roll. Yeah, I'm excited to be able to be here. My name's Tyran Lopez. I happen to be an owner of a few of these clubs out here in Southeast Texas. I am excited to be able to share with you a little bit about how I got here. But before we do that, just wanted to recap a little bit. Last week, we talked about our clubs. We talked about all the stuff we have planned for this coming year. We know that we got to ramp up with Pin Oak to get the refresh going there. We know that for the Fulshear location, really looking to try to get as much PT there as we can, maintaining PT here at this club at 1093, and helping Steven and Josh out there in Sugarland to get that club really moving along like we wanted to. But specifically, what's happened this past week was that I mentioned to you that we really are looking to try to get some momentum out there in Fulshear, specifically with personal training, and we think we are heading in the right direction. I spend now more time out there than I have in the past, and we think that's yielding some fruit now. We picked up a couple of new clients out there, and I think these are great examples of people that we can follow over the coming weeks to kind of see how they progress. The people that we are that have come on board for personal training, one is Lori Pope. She happens to be a owner of a restaurant, a pretty famous restaurant here in Katy named Harvest Garden, Harvest Kitchen. One of those. I have to check and see exactly how that is. But we're going there on Saturday to go check it out. So it'll be the first time for us to be there. So I'm excited to do that. So Lori has been taking glutides. So she's lost a lot of weight, more than 70 pounds. I think it's pretty amazing. She looks great. But she has lost some muscle mass, which is pretty common for people that are on there's Monjoro and Ozempic and the others. And so we want to try to help her put on some of that muscle. Now, it's going to take her to obviously get into the strength training, make sure she's active there and being very consistent, but also that her diet, because we need her to make sure she's getting plenty of protein and that she's eating. And a lot of times when you're on these glutides like this, it can produce a lot of nausea. So you're not really interested in eating, and because of that, you're really not wanting to work out either. So it's kind of a double whammy there. You don't get the nutrition, and you're not getting the exercise. You just the weight comes off, but you have this problem of just not being able to keep your muscle mass. So we're going to try to help her with that. So we're excited. We're in Lori's camp. Yep. And we'll make that happen. On the other side, we've got a teenager that just came on. He's an athlete. He is a soccer player. Darum is his name. And Darum is going to be playing, hopefully, for the Honduras youth team. I think 14, 15 years of age. That group represents Honduras, and so we are going to help him get ready. He's going to go there in the summertime, and so we're going to work with him up until that point. We're going to help him put on some muscle mass. We're going to help him with how explosive he is, and his endurance and his mobility. We're going to work a lot in the strength side to be able to make sure he can deal with the rigors of what that kind of routine is going to be like. So we're excited to be able to help him with that. All right. So those are a couple that we've started with, and we'll be working with them a couple times a week, and they'll be on nutrition plans, but also obviously the strength training. So excited for that. Now, as far as how we got here, I just, for all of you that have been with us since 2018 when we took over the Pin Oak location, you may recall that we did a video back then that kind of gave a little bit of how I got here. Now, it's been some time. It's been it's like nearly a decade since then. Time's going by so fast. But I wanted to share with you that story if you hadn't seen it. Maybe for all those that are kind of new, kind of how I actually got here, because my path might be similar to some, but different from others. Just so you know, as a background, my parents both in the military, Air Force, so I grew up moving around a lot. And I ended up finishing high school in New Mexico and also in Maine, of all places. Played sports all through high school, and so kept up with my fitness even after when I went to college. But I am also a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And what's common there is that young men, when they get out of high school, is that they go on a mission. And so I went out on a mission. Served for 2 years. I went to the Utah Provo mission, best 2 years of my life. I learned a ton, matured a lot. I certainly was able to teach a lot of people. My testimony of Jesus Christ was greatly enriched because of that. So wouldn't trade those 2 years of my life for anything. It was the best 2 years ever. And so, but that really helped kind of propel me into being very serious after my mission about, going to school, finishing college, doing the best that I can. And then obviously like finding my wife now, who is Sarah, and marrying and starting a family. And so I was following the typical trajectory of any young man in the United States, with the exception of obviously serving a mission. But, getting out in the career and really pushing hard, trying to make a living, support a family, have children, just the sort of the American dream. That's what I was after. And I did that roughly 20 years. I was in oil and gas and worked in, more like a systems engineer in technology, IT. And so during that time, as I was progressing, we were invited to actually move to Germany. And we lived in Germany for 5 years. And some really interesting things happened to me while I was there. So remember, I was your typical, stereotypical American. And there's nothing like going to another country to realize just how American you are. But I learned very quickly how American I am, which isn't a bad thing. It's just, there are just some things about us that, we think are awesome. Yeah, just that word awesome. We use that a lot, and you learn just how much you use it over there. Anyway, so when I got over there, I, became aware of some different ways of thinking. And one particular way of thinking that I thought was really fascinating when I was in Germany was that I met multiple people that decided that just at 40 or 45 years of age, hey, I am going to quit my job and I'm going to go do something else. And many times they didn't actually know what that was. And so they would just simply just leave and they would go find something else. And when I would speak to them, people that were kind of ramping up to this point, they would say, well, I've got one life and I don't want to spend it in the same thing for my whole life. So I'm going to go do something else and I'll take the skills I learned here and go apply it to somewhere else. And that was fascinating to me. That like blew my mind to think that you would do that. You would even consider doing that. And, I had always had in the back of my mind the dream of just owning a gym because I love fitness so much. And I was like, yeah, I would love to be able to go to work in a hoodie and shorts and just hang out with members and, relax and work out. That just seemed amazing to me. But I was like, oh, that's like when I'm retired, back, after I, get plenty of money for just to be able to sit around and do nothing. But then, while we were in Germany in 2016, something happened that changed everything for me. So in April of 2016, I got a call from my mom telling me that my brother passed away. His name is Josh. And Josh looked a lot like me. We acted a lot alike. And, that really, really rocked my world. Also from my whole family, especially for my parents, as you can imagine. But that situation really, really set me into another trajectory. And so what happened is that because of my brother's passing, I really started to evaluate what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and that, hey, this life isn't promised and that anything could happen. And so after prayer and thought and discussing with my wife, we decided that when we came back from Germany, we weren't going to continue with my previous career, and we would get into something else. And we had known about Anytime Fitness from before. When before we went to Germany, we had been in contact with him. We thought it was fascinating, this model that, of having a gym that's 24 hours, but that you're not always there. We really thought that was intriguing. And so we'd been in contact with him. So when we got back to the US, we started to kind of shop around and to see who might be selling a club. And that's when we met Charlie, who was the previous owner of the Pin Oak location. And he was very, very helpful as far as, what we could do, what clubs were available. And then he just asked me one day, he's like, "Hey, I'll sell you this club." And I said, "Really?" And he was like, yeah, here's the price. And we negotiated and finally came to terms, and yeah, we pulled the trigger. We did it. And we took over the Pinnacle location, and I walked into my managing director's office, and we were talking about the budget. And I basically told him, I said, "Hey, I'm going to help you out with your budget because I'm going to be stepping away." And he had a very, surprised look on his face, and I felt like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders, thinking we were going in this new direction, and we did it and pulled the trigger. And I walked out of my managing director's office on a totally different career path. And so that was pretty wild, and had never done that before. And so hope that I don't have to do it again. But nonetheless, so we took over the Pinnacle location, and I was there from 5 a.m., 4 a.m. sometimes, all the way until 8 p.m. Now, we lived in Pearland at the time, and I was driving an hour every day there and driving an hour back. Sometimes I would sleep there. I even met some members that were really supportive, and they actually let me stay in their house, so I didn't have to keep driving back and forth during the week. But that's what I would do, and I just worked, and I picked up clients, and I started really doing the stuff that I love, which is really helping people get to a better place through fitness. And I found that my experience, stuff that I learned on my mission, but also in my career, my previous career, I really felt like I had some skills that could help some people really reach some goals. And there were people really willing to work with me, and I'm super grateful for them, and not just the people I trained, but friends that I've gained and friends that I still have today. And I just love them to death. And I'm super grateful for the chance to be able to be an owner. And that was 2018. And then 2020, we picked up this 1093 club, which I really enjoy and actually spend most of my time here. And then we then built a club in Fulshire, as I mentioned, in 2022. And then we just recently picked up the Sugar Land location. So now there's 4. And so, yeah, this has been an amazing journey. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Me and my wife are the happiest that we have been, so far. And so it's been amazing. And I owe it all to you to help me with this. And I'm grateful to be able to be here, and hope to be here for a number of years until we maybe go on to another chapter. But still many things to do, and I'm excited to work with the people that I have. So I would say it's been a pretty big success. We didn't expect to, make money. We didn't expect that. We just hoped that we would be able to keep the businesses open, and we've been able to do that and more. I've been able to send my daughter off to university, and my son is getting to the age where he's going to go on a mission himself, and we hope that this will help to pay for that. And so, yeah, I can't say enough how grateful I am to Anytime Fitness and to these clubs and to each of you for allowing us to be able to have this chapter in our life. So we'll share more in the future. So next week, we'll talk more about what do we actually offer here as far as services. We'll talk more about what we do really well and what we hope to continue to improve. And then we'll just keep sharing more and more about what it is like to be an owner, to be an employee, do some interviews. I've already spoke with some of the members that have similar efforts like what we're doing right here, and they want to join in and kind of share with you their story. So I'm excited for that. But we've got to, polish this a bit more, make sure that all of this technology is working well. It's a learning process for me because I'm kind of new to this whole thing, but I think it's one that's, it's doing all right so far. So let me know. But we'll be back again next week. Until then, we'll see you guys very soon. Stay in the gym, keep working out, and watch that diet. All right.